There are things known and there are things unknown. In between are the doors of perception. A quote by Aldous Huxley. It's very likely you are not living in your very own infinity matrix. The fact is that most people are walking around in a trance most of the time, and their reality is influenced by thousands of things on a moment-to-moment basis. Join us in the stream today as we dive into whose matrix are you living in? I'm Gary. Here's Ross, bringing him in. There we go. And we are hacking the infinity matrix.
Ta-da!
There we go. Awesome. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show today. If you're just joining, we are at episode number 30, people.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty big, I think. If you're just joining us, please go ahead and let us know in the comments where you're listening from around the world. Even if you've done it before, please just drop us a quick note, just because we really love to see how big our community is, and we also like to know how far our message is reaching. All right, so go ahead and drop those in the comments. And let me just see here. All right, we got Chicago. Hey, Bernadette, how you doing? We got Hector. Hey, Hector. All right, where is everyone chiming in from England? Nice. Over across the pond, I know we got a big following there. We got India, Florida, Poland. Happy anniversary. Thanks, Hector. Norway.
I didn't get a present. I just want to let everybody know. Not even a card.
St. Albans. Awesome. Great to hear, guys. Michigan, hooked. Nice. I like that. Yeah, and if you are streaming for the first time, or joining us for the stream for the first time, go ahead and enter hashtag first time so we can properly greet you in the comments, as well as welcome you to the show, because we do respond to all the comments after the show is done. If you're a regular, you know the routine, set the example and enter hashtag hooked on hacking, just to kind of set the example, because you guys are regulars. And of course, if you're catching the replay, it's hashtag replay. All right. Actually, just out of curiosity, I got Philadelphia, Prince George, Liverpool, nice. India, UK, Arkansas. Awesome. Hashtag first time. There we go. Nice. Oh, we got a few first timers.
Oh,
awesome. Welcome. So actually, just out of curiosity, I mean, we think, 30 streams is a pretty cool milestone. So out of curiosity, we're wondering how many of you listening today have actually listened or watched or tuned into the replay of all 30 episodes. We're kind of curious, so go ahead, and if you have, go ahead and enter into the comments hashtag 30 hacks, hashtag 30 hacks, and because it'd be interesting to see how many. It's a tall order, I know. May not be a lot of you out there, because I mean, that's a lot of consistency, but I'm sure there are a few out there. So be interested.
You have to listen to them live, even if you've gone into the guides tab.
Yeah, even if you've gone to guides, listen to the replays, and or if you've listened to portions of, or if you've attended 30 hacks, just go ahead and type in hashtag 30 hacks, and that would be good. And in fact, next Thursday's episode, I'm actually going to pick someone to get a copy of my Secrets to the Manifesting Mind hypnosis series. It's a series of 16 highly powerful hypnotic processes to train your unconscious mind to manifest reality that you desire on autopilot, right? Trust me, it's really, really good. You're going to really enjoy it. So we do have a couple going out there, a couple of hashtag 30s. Way to go, Erica. Awesome. Nice. Cool. Elga, adapt therapy. Awesome. So I'll pick one. So throughout the week, so I give people a chance to come back and catch the replay. So even if you're on the replay and it's your 30th time on the replay, hashtag 30 hacks. And then throughout the week, I'll pick one winner and announce that on next week's stream, and that person will get a full free copy of Secrets to the Manifesting Mind Hypnosis Series 16 butt-kicking hypnotic processes to train your unconscious mind to manifest reality. All right. If you're not watching this from our private group, we strongly suggest you head over there and register to be a part of our members, because we have all kinds of benefits and extra stuff we do for the members. It's a fast-growing and super active community of people who they're serious about hacking the infinity matrix and becoming unstoppable in life, because that's really what we want to deliver and offer to you. So to be a part of the group, just go ahead. The link is scrolling on the bottom here. Just go head over to that, facebook.com/groups/ the infinity matrix. And once you get there, answer all 3 questions and you'll be automatically accepted into the membership. But if you don't answer those questions, the system will boot you out and you won't get automatic entry. Okay. The 3rd question there does allow you to jump on our VIP list. And we're rolling out some stuff very soon that's even extra special for VIP members. So you get the option to do that as well. Well, we got a bunch of, look at that, a bunch of 30 hacks. What? Yeah. That's awesome. Nice. That's cool. Awesome. All right. So, one of the bonuses, one of the things we do for benefits that we give our private group is a segment we call Down the Rabbit Hole. And it's a segment that we stream live on the group page every Friday. We've just started it and we've done a few episodes and it's just been amazing. It's Down the Rabbit Hole is where we invite everybody and anybody to join us on a Zoom interactive conversation about something thought-provoking, inspiring, enlightening, something that can go in any direction, right? Just like a rabbit hole. You go and you don't know where you're going to end up. It gives you a chance to just jam with both Ross and I for about an hour or so, right? It is growing every week, and the conversations, insights, and learnings have been nothing short of amazing. It's been really, really good. Every week has been so different and so awesome. You can join us on the Zoom call. Let me just throw the link up here. Let's see, where is that? And that is the rabbit hole right there. So there's the link for it. If you go to that link, you just join up and register for the Zoom call, and then you can join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. and it will be streamed. You can jump on with the camera or just voice if you don't want your face on the screen, because we are streaming it. So do know that. But we do like interaction when you're on there, and you can even chat by text and stuff like that too. Yeah. So so we look forward. If you are like most of us, and you are thirsting for conversations beyond the news headlines and the weather, really, really block off that time from whatever you have planned and get on the Zoom with us and come and see where we go down this rabbit hole. It's hackingtheinfinitematrix.com/the down the rabbit hole. The
rabbit hole goes in so many different directions. I mean, we're not just 2 talking heads talking at you. It's like we might start the conversation, but we have no idea where it's going to end.
Yeah. In fact, tomorrow we invite you to journey back to the day the Earth stood still for you. Sound intriguing? All right, join us and tune in on the private group, or join us on the Zoom to see where this rabbit hole takes us. All right. Today our topic is, whose matrix are you living in? And it's really an opportunity to reflect on what, if anything, has been taking you away from your true core authentic self, and therefore tainting your real infinity matrix experience of reality.
Yeah, it really comes down to everything that you come in contact with influence you. The influence has to do with its respective frequency, whether you resonate with it or not. So it can have a positive or a negative effect on you, depending on what you allow it to do. Of all that affects you and your life, you have little control over it. So we want you to learn which of these influences that you can control and what you can do to get yourself and your life under control, back on track, or simply on track as much as possible. So this holds true for your past and future and present. Everything, everything had, has, or will have an influence on you. So the term influence, it's a very broad term. It is the effect on you by someone or something. Now, people have been asking me, is manipulation influence? Yes, it's a form of influence. As it's defined, manipulation is a psychological indirect influence. It's kind of what we'd call the dark side of influence. So you're influenced by countless factors, but not necessarily manipulated. And we'll discuss that a little bit later. So it comes down to where you choose to draw the line. So as children, we are strongly influenced, and in some cases, that has led to manipulation. But for the most part, we are initially influenced by the beliefs and the actions of our parents. Our mirror neurons are firing like crazy to imitate our parents as they are our primary source of input. So then, as we learn to crawl and then walk, we venture out, feeling, touching, tasting the world around us. The first, remember this is very important. The first 7 years are the most critical in establishing the criteria for the next 7 decades of your life. You and how your life has gone so far has been a direct reflection of your parents and maybe your grandparents or whomever was your primary caregiver. So, how parents behave or how you as a parent behave, that behavior towards that child or you as a child, what your parents have told you several times, what they talk about, the day and the week schedule, the leisure activities, what parents give their children to eat, and much, much more affects the whole life of a person. It builds the structure. I'm going to give you a real quick example. There was a mother who was making, I don't know, it was a family dinner, and she was cooking a roast. And so she takes out the roast, she cuts off this end, cuts off this end, puts it in the pan. And she was showing the daughter. She was, well, the daughter's like, well, why do you cut off the ends? And she goes, I don't know. That's what my mother taught me. So the daughter was really, really curious. So she calls grandmother. Grandmother, when mom makes the roast, she cuts off the ends of the roast. Why does she do that? She goes, I don't know. That's what my mother taught me. So the daughter, now really, really curious, calls her great grandmother. Says, great grandma, why do you cut off the ends of the roast before you put it into the pan? And the great grandmother says, well, that's because the pan wasn't big enough for the whole roast. So I just had to cut off the end so it fit in the pan. Okay. 4 generations kept doing that, but not really knowing why. It was just because their mirror neurons just accepted it. Okay. So think about how you grew up, what your parents said to you repeatedly, and what you can remember from your childhood, and what emotion is attached to that, what you remember. At this point in your childhood, you were living their matrix. So here's an idea. Contrast your childhood with that of some of your friends and acquaintances. Just get together and just tell them what you're trying to do, okay? And see how these people's lives have developed differently, or what some commonalities that you may have. So what was their earlier matrix and what is it now? So next, as a child, we were entertained by movies and TV and nowadays the internet and cinema, etc. Was it the plan from the very beginning to use these medias to influence? Probably not. But when people began to imitate what they saw and what they heard, media influencing was born. The point became to condition the thinking and behavior of people according to the dictums of the influencers, that be the actors, the directors, and the writers. And those dictums were given to them by the other influencers, the producers and or the sponsors who actually own the media. So you see how most people live, what they are engaged in and what they talk about, and you can find correlation with what types of genres of media that they engage in. You can figure them out. So you remember when it was cool to smoke cigarettes? You know,
and recommended by your doctor.
and actually doctors were doing the extra freaking commercials. So since we quickly learned to change channels during the commercials, they created what's called product placement. Put the product in the show or in the movie. And now your favorite stars are using the product. So if you do not know which brand to choose from as a product, the placement will make that decision without you even being aware. When you're in a store, the presentation of the goods, the colors, the music, the friendliness of the staff, all influences your buying behavior. This is known as neuromarketing, and we discussed this, Gary, I think it was back in episode 8. So mind you, you may be experiencing all of this now, but as a child with basically a sponge for a brain, and I don't mean that derogatory. I mean it's basically something that's just going to absorb everything around it. But that's kind of where we're at. So the profession of parents can also influence a person. Very often a child chooses the profession of their parents. The lawyer's child,
field anyways, right?
Exactly. The lawyer's child usually won't become a construction worker. It's rarely that a child of a construction worker becomes a lawyer or a doctor. Okay, not in all cases. So this is we're speaking broadly, but mostly because the limitations imposed on the parents, not the child directly. So the limitation that the parent has is passed down to the child. So the child says, my dad does this for a living, or my mom, whatever, and such. And I can't see beyond that level. Okay. Now, today's world is a little bit differently than it was back then, but it still kind of works because the limitations are still there. So, and how about your education and your teachers? What did you learn? Remember individual teachers that you had? In what ways did they influence your life, good or bad?
Yeah,
So
which will probably be, for the topic for tomorrow, for the probably going to be a lot of that coming up for sure. Yeah,
exactly. So a lot of, were you sponsored by one or more teachers? Did you start an apprenticeship, or did you attend a university? What profession did you learn? Which study field did you choose, and why? You and your life have been influenced by school, apprenticeships, university studies, teachers, colleagues. The teaching criteria can be a pseudo form of influence and or manipulation. That's going to be tomorrow. All steering you into particular directions. And then there's the biggie. You have churches and religions are one of the better known influencers, while some also lean more into the manipulative side. This influence in most cases is passed on multi-generational, from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next, mostly due to the regularity of the influence, be it like a weekly or daily. It goes very, very, very deep into the subconscious. So most of you belong to or have belonged to a religious community and are convinced that his or her religion is the best and the only right one. I mean, wars are fought over this one hypocritical point. Mine's better than yours. Most can hardly understand that there are people who believe in God as a higher power who do not want to belong to a specific religious interpretation of that. That's heresy. That's, oh my gosh. So whether it be the media or religion, many intimidation, manipulation, or influence techniques are used to spread the belief. People are taught that they come into the world sinful and must repent, rather than starting innocent and grow into their greatness. The masses are overwhelmed with negative connotations, news, and future fear-mongering. This is why many conversations are about negatives. It's a control that keeps the overall frequency of people down and weakened. It's like a drip, drip, drip. It's just always there. So when we ask, whose matrix are you living in? You can see why, but do you know the answer? Give it some thought. More and more people are refraining from reading newspapers or watching news on television on a daily basis. And Gary's going to get into this a little bit later, but which is a good decision. Exposing yourself to negative or manipulative information worsens your frequency. It's like a wet blanket. And your frequency is responsible for how your life evolves. It's a lot of what's happening in the world every day. You don't need all of it. And then there are many nice things to do instead that improves your frequency. It makes you shine and be brighter. You're influenced by all of the media, but how you choose to absorb it is based on the previous influences that I've already listed above. They created the structure. News media influences and manipulates you in the first place negatively. So live without television and newspapers for a few days and refrain from reading news or listening to it or reading it on the news. You'll feel better. Scan the headlines of the top news on the internet. That's enough. Don't get drawn in. Choose to engage. Media's motto, if you haven't heard this before, is if it bleeds, it leads. Yours should be if it heals, it feels. We're not saying turn away and ignore, but rather taking enough to understand that that side of reality exists. You can't save the world while you're trying to save yourself first. So with everyone here experiencing this maelstrom of limiting belief information in the last year, I realized it was difficult to sift through all the data coming through from so many different sources. But a lot of information, even important information that required a ton of due diligence. The internet is immensely helpful. We can inform ourselves better, and hardly a question that we do not find answered on it's always there. We find training, work, coaching, the latest fashion, new car models, addresses, phone numbers, and much more. We get in contact with people worldwide, people who we would never have known existed. You found Gary and I. Social media such as Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all others, they affect your life. On the social platforms, we make new friends around the world, and we share and exchange information. They expand our reality. Absolutely keeping away from social media, we personally think, is not a solution. Those who stay abstinent are missing the wondrous variety and grandeur of the world. All of this creates the architecture of the matrix that you call reality. Piece by piece, it can be woven together into your own belief system if you choose it to be. How far you're in control of yourself, and your life begins with controlling your thoughts and emotions and what you allow to radiate into the infinity matrix. And what you think affects how you feel, and how you feel controls the progress of your life.
Yeah. So ultimately, I mean, Ross and I talk about this all the time. What we want to do is help you to be more consistently in a place of choice,
Absolutely.
right? A place we call the choice convergence point, or CCP. But if you're being pulled away from your choices by those influencers or distractors that are out there, then you're not really living in your truth. Right. So ultimately, it's about living in your truth instead of living in a version of someone else's truth. Because it doesn't deny those things from happening out there or those things being somebody's reality. It allows us to be in a place where we can make the choice on the infinity matrix we want to experience. And again, remember, the infinity matrix is the external world and the internal world combining all in one, right? It's not either or, it's this and, right? So there's the quote that I started off the stream today with by Aldous Huxley. There are things known and there are things unknown. And in between are the doors of perception. And it's that in between part where you can choose to kind of go down one path or the other. Last week on our rabbit hole, we talked about making the unknown your friend, and how that's a good thing instead of a bad thing or a scary thing. And because it depends on the perception. Right? It's your perception of things that shift it one way or the other, right? So while there are all the influencers that Ross talked about, and there are many, many more than we care to dive into today, and they really determine the infinity matrix you call reality, and what makes the shift is your perception of what's going on. Right, the definitions you've constructed or were taught about, about what to see, what to hear, how to feel in the world around you. Just to think about the feeling part. Remember that feelings, they're not. We're not born with them. We're taught feelings, right? You think, well, how do you know what sadness looks like? How do you know what sadness feels like? How do you know what sadness is? How do you know what creates sadness? And vice versa. How do you know what creates joy, happiness, celebration? How do you know that? Well, what happens is you grow up, and by watching and observing what's going on around you and how that interrelates with the internal matrix, you make these distinctions and you come up with these perceptions. So if for some reason your facial structure was a little bit more, down and sagging a little bit, and your parent says, "Oh, are you feeling sad?" Now your mind goes, "Oh, so this is what sad feels like, looks like," but it may not be. Right? It's a perception that they saw and they labeled, and then you either accepted or rejected that. So think about that. All those things that growing up that were told to you that this is how this is, or this is how that should be. So we mentioned a few times, and Ross mentioned again today about neuromarketing, right? As a business growth and marketing expert, it's one of the things I study is neuromarketing. And it's a study of what kind of things influence people without them knowing it. Right? And yes, as he said, there is the manipulation part of it and the influence part of it, right? The influence part is where you present something and it allows someone to have choice. The manipulation part puts a person down a path where they don't feel they have a choice. That's the difference. Okay. So for example, did you know that your energy and your abilities impact your perspective? And what I mean by that? Well, our physical bodies and our ability to move it influences how we view our surroundings. But you wouldn't think that, right? Just because of the body structure and the size and shape and the strength, the weakness. Researchers have found that if you're obese or tired, distances actually look further to you than they really are, right? and vice versa, right? And it's also shown that people wearing heavy backpacks actually see steeper hills in front of them than those without backpacks. You think about that. So it's not that that was a manipulation. Those were things that influenced how you perceive the world based on things that you weren't even consciously aware of. Right. And also your body awareness. So the amount of awareness you have about your body, right, and what your body functions and how it feels, the amount of awareness you have also influences your decisions. Right. There's studies that show people who could more accurately count their heartbeats, so they could tune in and actually and get close to that accurate without touching their body, right? They were more successful at making decisions under pressure. Right? So their being in tune with their body allowed them to have a different type of perception and therefore interaction and influence on the or have this different influence from the environment around them. Right? Also, being hungry or not changes our choice. I mean, we all know this, right? When you're hungry or you haven't eaten for a while, you don't make the same decisions. Right?
Go shopping while you're hungry.
Exactly. Right. In fact, there was a study that showed that judges who make parole decisions just before their lunch breaks or end of their day, they tend to deny parole.
Oh, seriously? I have not heard that. I'm going to bring a sandwich next time I have to go to court.
Here you go, sir. But if you understand these, right, those are just naturally occurring. Now, if you understand them, so someone in a lawyer position would know then to help their client, you don't want them right before right before lunch or the end of the day.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Right. And also, it's easy to read statements. The statements that are easy to read seem to be, for our mind, more true, even if they're not. Right. In fact, there were participants who agreed more with easy to read statements than less easy, than ones that were more complex. And also there's also been studies to show that statements made with a rhyme scheme, right, like woes unite foes, right, were considered more true, not even just remembering but they considered more true than statements without the rhyming scheme, like woes unite enemies.
So right? Gary, do you think that that's part of the popularity of like the meme craze that we go through now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's short, it's quick. So then people automatically assume that's true because it's easy to read.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Right. And then your feelings, as Ross has talked about, your feelings influence your decisions. Bad feelings make things seem harder. So when you're experiencing bad feelings, for example, there was research that showed that people who listen to sad music tend to think hills look steeper than people who are listening to happy music. So if you're jogging and running and you got like you sad, it's going to be harder to run if you're doing any hills, right? But if you have happy music, it doesn't seem such a deal. The same hill, but your perception shifts.
So no walking with sad music and wearing a backpack because you're going to feel like you're falling into a hole.
Wow. In fact, there's also feelings like disgust, right, which come out of the limbic system of our brains. They often, and it's often below conscious awareness, they guide our reactions and evaluations, making them less than impartial, right? So you think about all these little things and all the different emotions and all the things that are going around us, you start to wonder, well, who is intentionally putting things in place to influence the matrix you're living in? And are you starting to become aware of it? Are you opening up your perception to be aware of it or not? I think it was last week I did the I think it was last week I did the hack where we did the in Kung Fu we called it holistic awareness, where you start to increase your awareness, your
Yeah, that
perception.
was last week. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the more you can do that, the more you get to a place of choice and knowing, okay, well, which part of these things are things that I want to be a part of, right? And so your perception today, right? Your perception today is the result of the full sum of your past conditioning and definitions, rules, and beliefs you've established up to this point in time. And the cool thing is that you can start today to look at what those definitions are, what kind of rules you've set up for the way you interact with the world, and you can look at and change beliefs that are no longer serving you. Right. And I'm going to share with you a hack today that I came up with and did to help me separate from those influences a long time ago, and help me to reconnect with my inner core self, so I could live more from choice-centered existence and feel confident that I'm being authentically me more consistently than not. All right. So let's take a look at some of the comments, and then we'll go through the hack here today. The hack, I call it the media and electronics fast. And I saw that some people earlier said that they were doing some of this. So some of you already been on the path. So I agree about, here we go. I agree about limiting my exposure to media. I believe that happily you choose what you want to stay focused on. Absolutely. That's absolutely right, Chantel. We can either choose to be controlled or control ourselves. 100%. It's all about choice, right? You can get to a choice, or you can just kind of fall with the choices others present to you. Okay.
Very good.
Okay, good. So let's start with the hack today. So there's 3 different levels of the hack. All right. It's a fairly simple hack, but can be difficult for some people. Or it could be like, that's a no-brainer for me. It depends. So you find where you fit. There's going to be beginner practice for the hack, an intermediate hack, and an advanced practice. So let's start with the beginner. So if you're a beginner, and you'll know after I describe the activity, what you're going to do is you're going to pick one day a week where you turn off TV, radio, stay away from reading newspapers, magazines, or even books for the entire 24 hours. And in those times when you have normally done those things, spend that time on doing inner reflection stuff. Okay, meditation. Just just be with yourself. Be okay to be with yourself. Without having to need. And obviously, if you have family members around, you're not chucking them out the house. But I mean, just without the external influences outside of your current surroundings, right? Contemplate the question: who is the one experiencing this reality right now? Just ask yourself that on a regular bit throughout the day. Maybe even set a timer on a watch or something where it dings you on the hour, so that when it goes, you say, okay, well, who's on this hour? Who's the one experiencing this reality right now? And just think about that. Who is the one experiencing it? And anytime you think about going to your media, news, info, social feeds, those kinds of things, do that instead. Do that contemplation for 24 hours once a week. Okay? And challenge yourself to do that for as long as you can, until it becomes like, that's no problem, no big deal. You want to get to a place with these hacks where you do them enough where they just become, oh, that's easy to do, I can do that. Or you automatically get into the experience or state that you want. Okay? Second one, intermediate practice. I want you to pick 1 week per month where you have a daily cutoff time from TV, radio, news, newspapers, magazines, and even books. Okay? Spend that time connecting with yourself, connecting with your family, connecting with nature. Okay? And if you're bold, absolutely minimize during the daytime, okay, during the workday or during the non-cutoff time, minimize your exposure to those things as much as possible. Really strip it down, right? And then at your cutoff time, go cold turkey. right? So for example, throughout the day, you absolutely reduce or minimize any exposure to any of those things whenever possible, wherever possible, however possible. And then come 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. every day for the next 7 days, you go tech and media silent. Just turn all that stuff off and connect with self. Okay. The advanced practice is to do a minimum of a month where you do not read, listen to, or talk about any news, don't watch any TV, listen to any radio, read any magazine, or open any book. No internet browsing, no video games for an entire month. Okay? Challenge yourself to do that, and instead get out in nature. Instead, get out and connect with self. Instead, make deeper connections and building of relationship with those you care about and love. Instead, dive into some kind of hobby or passion that you have that doesn't include or involve any of those things for 30 days. And then try to do that quarterly. All right, 4 times a year. Pick a month where it's your fasting month, right? Your media fasting month, right? And if you want to open up more conversation about what we've covered today in our stream, just join us down the rabbit hole tomorrow and get on the Zoom so we can strike up a conversation. Let me throw the link up there again.
Exactly.
So go ahead.
Callie was talking about as far as people have lost connection with their bodies and they're always looking for the magic pill and medication. We're going to go into that probably tomorrow too, because that's one of my pet peeves. I mean, it's for Gary and I both. It's all about connection, but that's one of the big areas where influence and manipulation has gone into effect. And that's definitely going to be on the topic tomorrow. So that's very cool. That's a great one, Callie.
Awesome. It looks like there's some people that haven't had flat. I saw someone 16 years hasn't watched TV. This one 8 years, no TV in their house. Awesome. Awesome. Precious information. Great. We got some great comments there. Exactly. So where did that? Let's go back to that. So join us tomorrow on the rabbit hole, right? There's the link. And come and jam with us. It's a really fun time. There's no structure to it. There's the topic, and then we just go wherever the conversation takes us. It's a blast, and we're seeing it's growing week after week, and it's getting bigger and bigger and more interaction. So we look forward to seeing you guys on that. And if you aren't already a member in our private group, here's the link. Remember, the replays are there under the guides tab. And also we're posting the previous rabbit hole sessions are going to be there as well, because we do stream it live to the group.
The group is just an amazing community. I mean, there's a lot more interaction from Gary and myself and all the members. If you want to be in a like-minded community, that's the place to be. It really is.
So join us at the facebook.com/groups/the Infinity Matrix. So until then, go out and be unstoppable. Thanks everybody for joining, and we will see you next Thursday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.